She thought throwing rotting trash on a quiet black gardener would protect her elite neighborhood. But she had no idea that in exactly 10 minutes, that same poor gardener would legally buy her entire multi-million-dollar mansion and throw her out onto the street. How did a humble man with autumn leaves on his clothes suddenly become the absolute master of her destiny? My dear friends, before we continue this incredible story, I warmly invite you to join our family by subscribing to the channel. Drop a comment below letting us know which country you are watching from and how old you are. It truly means the world to me to know who is sharing these dramatic moments with us. Now, let's continue our story. Victoria Sterling stood proudly on her pristine, manicured lawn, glaring down disgustedly at Marcus Vance, a quiet, hard-working black gardener who was simply trying to clear away autumn leaves. The wealthy widow could not tolerate seeing someone like Marcus in her exclusive gated community, so she intentionally knocked over a massive trash bin, spilling garbage all over him. "Get out of my neighborhood right now, you filthy eyesore!" Victoria screamed loudly, her voice echoing across the quiet suburban street, while Marcus stood completely frozen in absolute shock. Marcus looked down at his ruined clothes, then back at the furious woman, holding his breath, trying desperately to control his rising anger, while keeping his dignity fully intact. He had maintained these beautiful gardens for 5 long years without a single complaint from anyone, but Victoria always treated him like a dangerous criminal who did not belong. Instead of arguing back with the cruel, wealthy woman, Marcus silently knelt down and began picking up the scattered, rotting garbage with his bare hands, showing incredible calmness and restraint. 10 minutes later, Victoria received an urgent phone call from her elite real estate broker, informing her that a mysterious, wealthy buyer had just purchased her beautiful luxury estate. The arrogant woman was utterly speechless, because her historic mansion was not even officially listed for sale on the open market. Yet someone possessed enough power to buy it. She immediately demanded to know the identity of this incredibly wealthy buyer, but the nervous broker refused to reveal any specific details, leaving Victoria filled with intense, burning curiosity. Meanwhile, Marcus quietly packed his gardening tools into his old, battered pickup truck, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and drove away toward the city center with purpose. Nobody in this affluent neighborhood actually knew anything about Marcus Vance, because they all assumed he was just a poor, struggling laborer working for meager daily wages to survive. They had absolutely no idea that Marcus was actually a highly successful, self-made real estate tycoon who owned dozens of massive commercial properties across the entire bustling metropolitan area. He only worked as a humble gardener because it brought him genuine peace of mind after losing his beloved wife to a tragic, sudden illness several years ago in June. Gardening was his personal therapy, a way to stay completely grounded, connected to nature, and away from the cutthroat corporate world that had caused him so much stress. Victoria watched his old truck leave, then turned around to see a sleek black luxury limousine pulling slowly into her long, circular driveway, sparkling under the bright afternoon sun. The door opened, and a distinguished lawyer dressed in an expensive tailored suit stepped out, holding a thick leather briefcase containing the official transfer of ownership documents for signing. "Mrs. Sterling, your property has been completely acquired by our firm's primary client," the attorney stated firmly, handing her the legal papers that required her immediate signature today. Victoria smirked arrogantly, thinking she had just made millions of dollars from an anonymous, desperate billionaire who simply fell in love with her estate's prime geographical location. She signed the documents quickly, without reading the fine print, laughing to herself about how she would now move to an even more exclusive tropical paradise far away. "Here. Our client requests your immediate departure from these premises within the next 24 hours, the lawyer added coldly, completely shattering Victoria's joyful expression in a single second. "That is absolutely impossible!" Victoria shrieked in horror. "I need at least 3 full months to pack my expensive belongings and find another suitable place to live comfortably." The contract you just signed clearly specifies an immediate eviction upon completion of the wire transfer, the attorney replied smoothly, showing absolutely no sympathy for her frantic protests. Victoria's heart began racing with pure panic as she realized she had legally signed away her right to stay in the home she cherished so deeply for decades past. Just then, the rear door of the sleek black luxury limousine opened slowly, and a man stepped out wearing a stunning designer suit that cost a small, absolute fortune. Victoria blinked her eyes in total disbelief, gasping loudly for air as she recognized the confident, handsome face of the man standing directly before her on the stone driveway. It was Marcus Vance, but he no longer looked like the humble, dirty gardener she had humiliated just 10 minutes ago on her pristine green front lawn without mercy. He walked toward her with an air of absolute authority, his sharp eyes locked onto her pale, trembling face, which was now completely drained of all its usual color. "I believe I told you to get out of my neighborhood, Marcus," Victoria whispered weakly, her voice shaking uncontrollably as she tried to comprehend this unbelievable, shocking reality. Marcus smiled calmly, adjusted his expensive gold watch, and looked around the magnificent property that now officially belonged to him through legal purchase and immediate transfer of title deeds. "This is no longer your neighborhood, Mrs. Sterling," Marcus said softly, his voice dripping with smooth confidence. "Because 10 minutes ago, I officially bought your entire beautiful house." Victoria stood completely frozen on the stone driveway, clutching the signed contract to her chest as her mind struggled desperately to process the terrifying reality unfolding right before her. The arrogant woman looked from the expensive luxury limousine to Marcus's tailored suit, realizing with absolute horror that the man she had brutally humiliated held her entire future today. "You cannot do this to me, Marcus," Victoria gasped, out loud tears of pure frustration and anger welling up in her sharp eyes, while her voice shook violently now. "I have lived in this magnificent historic mansion for over 20 years, and you cannot simply throw me out onto the street like worthless garbage within 24 hours. Marcus stepped closer, his expression perfectly calm and unbothered by her dramatic tears, because he remembered exactly how she had kicked the dirty trash bin over his clothes earlier. "You did not care about dignity or respect when you dumped your rotting household waste all over me 10 minutes ago, Mrs. Sterling," Marcus reminded her very quietly instead. "You honestly believed that my dark skin and humble gardening clothes meant I was completely worthless and did not deserve an ounce of human decency in your exclusive neighborhood? Now this beautiful estate belongs to my corporate investment firm, and the strict legal contract you signed without reading clearly states that you must vacate these premises immediately, tomorrow." Victoria turned frantically toward her elite lawyer, looking for any possible legal loophole to escape this nightmare. But the professional attorney merely looked away, shaking his head in silence. "The wire transfer of several $1 million is already complete and completely legally binding, Mrs. Sterling," the lawyer stated firmly, handing her a copy of the official eviction notice. "If you do not pack your expensive belongings and leave this property by tomorrow afternoon at exactly 3 o'clock, security personnel will forcefully remove you from the premises today." Victoria felt her entire world collapsing around her, as she realized her massive wealth could no longer protect her from the consequences of her own cruel, arrogant actions here. She turned around and stumbled blindly back into her enormous, empty mansion, her mind racing with intense panic as she tried to figure out where she would go now. Meanwhile, Marcus watched her retreat with a heavy sigh, then turned to his lawyer, instructing him to ensure the property transition went smoothly, without any further unnecessary dramatic delays. He did not feel any twisted joy or malice in punishing Victoria, because he was truly a good man, who simply believed in teaching arrogant people powerful lessons about humility. Marcus climbed back into the rear seat of his sleek black luxury limousine and told his professional driver to take him back to his corporate headquarters downtown right away. As the limousine drove smoothly out of the exclusive gated community, Marcus looked out the window, watching the beautiful grand trees he had meticulously cared for over 5 years. He knew that his life as a simple, peaceful gardener in this particular neighborhood was officially over, because his true identity had now been completely revealed to everyone around. But Marcus had a much bigger plan for this beautiful luxury estate, a plan that would completely shock Victoria and the rest of the wealthy, prejudiced neighbors living here. For the past several months, Marcus had been secretly searching for the perfect location to establish a grand community center for underprivileged youth from the inner-city neighborhoods nearby. He wanted to create a safe, beautiful space where young children of color could learn valuable life skills, receive excellent education, and discover their true inner potential without limitations. Victoria's historic mansion was absolutely perfect for this noble project because it possessed vast, sprawling grounds, massive rooms, and was located in an area with endless, wealthy resources available. The very next morning, Victoria woke up early after a completely sleepless night, her eyes swollen from crying as she began packing her designer clothes into large cardboard boxes. Every single corner of her beautiful home reminded her of the immense power and status she had just lost because of one single moment of foolish, uncontrolled, racist anger. Outside on the quiet suburban street, a massive moving truck arrived, along with 3 professional security guards dressed in dark uniforms, hired by Marcus's corporate real estate firm. The neighbors began gathering near the sidewalk, whispering excitedly among themselves, as they watched the wealthy, proud Victoria Sterling being forced to pack her entire life away so quickly. At exactly 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Marcus's sleek black limousine pulled up to the gate once again, and Marcus stepped out looking incredibly sharp, powerful, and completely focused. He walked slowly up the front steps of the mansion, just as Victoria was carrying her final heavy suitcase out the grand front door, her face filled with deep resentment. "I hope you are completely satisfied with destroying my peaceful life, Marcus," Victoria spat out bitterly as she passed him on the stairs, refusing to look him in the eyes. Marcus stopped, turned around, and looked at her with an incredibly calm, fierce expression that immediately silenced her bitter words and made her heart stop with intense, sudden curiosity. "I did not destroy your life, Mrs. Sterling," Marcus replied softly, his voice echoing through the grand entrance. "Your own deep hatred and complete lack of empathy caused this." Victoria scoffed loudly, turning her back toward the moving truck while the curious neighbors watched intensely from behind the neatly trimmed green hedges of the exclusive gated community street. She climbed into her expensive sports car, slammed the door shut violently, and sped away from the beautiful estate, leaving behind the only place she had ever called home. Marcus watched the luxury car disappear around the corner, then turned his full attention toward the massive mansion that was now completely empty and ready for a grand transformation. He immediately called a team of top architects and urban developers, instructing them to arrive at the property first thing tomorrow morning with detailed blueprints for the new center. The news of Victoria's sudden, dramatic eviction and Marcus's true identity spread like absolute wildfire through the affluent neighborhood, causing immense panic and deep concern among the wealthy homeowners. They could not comprehend how a humble black gardener had secretly been an incredibly powerful real estate mogul, capable of buying a multi-million-dollar luxury estate in 10 minutes. Many of the prejudiced neighbors feared that Marcus would ruin the exclusive reputation of their elite community by bringing underprivileged inner-city children into their quiet, peaceful suburban paradise. The very next week, a formal emergency meeting was called at the Neighborhood Homeowners Association clubhouse to discuss ways to legally block Marcus's upcoming youth community center project. Marcus received an official invitation to the urgent meeting and decided to attend wearing his finest designer suit, wanting to face his critics with absolute confidence and legal power. When Marcus walked into the crowded clubhouse, a sudden heavy silence fell over the room as dozens of wealthy residents stared at him with intense judgment and hidden anger. The association president, an old, arrogant man named Richard, stand up, clearing his throat loudly before addressing Marcus directly with a very cold, condescending tone of voice. "Today, Mr. Vance, we are fully aware of your impressive financial status and your recent purchase of the Sterling estate." Richard began gesturing toward the wealthy homeowners sitting around. "However, this exclusive gated community is strictly reserved for private residential living only, and we will absolutely not allow a loud, chaotic commercial youth center to operate here. Our strict neighborhood bylaws clearly state that any major property modification or change in land use must be fully approved by a majority vote of the active board members." Marcus listened quietly to the arrogant speech, a calm, knowing smile spreading across his handsome face as he stood up slowly and walked confidently toward the front podium room. He opened his sleek leather briefcase and pulled out a stack of ancient legal documents that he had discovered while reviewing the neighborhood's original historic founding charters last night. "I am fully aware of the bylaws, Richard," Marcus stated firmly, his voice commanding absolute authority and respect. "But you clearly failed to read the original 1970 founding charter. According to Section 4 of the original master deed, the owner of the largest property in this development holds permanent veto power over all association decisions and regulations made. Victoria Sterling's estate happens to be the largest single property in this entire neighborhood, comprising over 15% of the total land area in this gated community zone today. Therefore, as the sole legal owner of that property, I am officially dismantling the Homeowners Association Board, effective immediately," Marcus announced calmly, leaving the entire room completely speechless. Richard dropped his papers in total shock, his face turning bright red with intense embarrassment as the wealthy neighbors began whispering frantically among themselves in sheer, absolute panic now. They realized that Marcus Vance did not just own Victoria's house. He now effectively controlled the legal regulations of the entire exclusive neighborhood they fought so hard to protect. Marcus packed his documents back into his briefcase, looked around the stunned room with a fierce, determined expression, and gave them one final powerful message before exiting the building. "This community center will be built, and these children will have access to the absolute best resources available in this country," Marcus said firmly, his voice filled with passion. "Instead of fighting against progress, I highly suggest you learn to accept change, because the world is moving forward, regardless of your outdated prejudices and wealth." Mrs. Sterling learned. He walked out of the clubhouse, leaving the wealthy residents in complete disarray as they realized their immense power had been completely crushed by the man they once ignored. Construction began the very next morning, with massive trucks arriving carrying building materials and teams of enthusiastic young workers ready to transform the historic mansion into a beautiful paradise. Marcus stood on the grand front lawn, watching the workers smile, feeling a deep sense of pride and connection to his late wife, who always dreamed of helping poor children. But just as things were going perfectly smoothly, Marcus received an unexpected legal notice from a mysterious corporate lawyer that threatened to destroy his entire project completely tomorrow. Marcus stared intently at the official legal notice in his hands, discovering that Victoria Sterling had partnered with a powerful, corrupt city politician to block his community youth center. The vindictive woman was using her remaining influential political connections to falsely claim that the historic mansion was a protected heritage site that could not be legally modified inside. If the city council officially designated the property as a historical landmark, Marcus would be completely banned from doing any construction work or welcoming the inner-city children there. The corrupt politician named Councilman Thomas had received a massive secret donation from Victoria's hidden offshore bank accounts to ensure the discriminatory zoning laws were strictly enforced immediately. Marcus refused to back down from this unfair political fight because he knew the future dreams of hundreds of innocent, underprivileged young children depended entirely on his ultimate success. He immediately contacted his private team of expert investigative journalists and skilled corporate lawyers, instructing them to dig deep into Councilman Thomas's financial history and past business dealings. Within 48 hours, Marcus's team uncovered a massive hidden trail of illegal bribes, extortion, and corrupt real estate transactions involving Thomas and several wealthy suburban property developers. Armed with this explosive, incriminating evidence, Marcus decided to confront the corrupt councilman directly at his luxurious City Hall office before the official public landmark voting took place. When Marcus walked into the office, Thomas smirked arrogantly, thinking he had completely defeated the wealthy black entrepreneur using his supreme political power and elite City Hall influence. "Mr. Vance, you are wasting your valuable time, because tomorrow morning, the City Council will officially declare the Sterling Estate a protected historical landmark," Thomas said, laughing loudly. "People like you cannot simply walk into our elite suburban neighborhoods and change things to suit your personal charitable agendas without facing serious political consequences from us today." Marcus remained perfectly calm, slowly sliding a thick manila folder across the polished mahogany desk directly in front of the arrogant politician, whose smile immediately began to fade away. Thomas opened the folder, his face instantly turning a pale, ghostly white as he saw detailed bank statements, records of illegal wire transfers, and photographs of secret meetings. "This folder contains absolute, undeniable proof of your extensive illegal financial dealings with Victoria Sterling and several other corrupt property developers in this state," Marcus stated very firmly. "If you do not completely drop the historical landmark claim against my property immediately, tomorrow morning, I will personally deliver these documents to the Federal Bureau tonight." The corrupt councilman began trembling with pure, absolute terror, realizing his entire political career and personal freedom were completely hanging by a very thin, fragile thread right now. "What exactly do you want, Marcus?" Thomas whispered hoarsely, sweating profusely through his expensive tailored suit while staring helplessly at the devastating, incriminating evidence sitting before him. "I want full, unhindered legal approval for my Youth Community Center project, and a public apology from your office regarding the unnecessary bureaucratic delays caused," Marcus demanded coldly. Thomas nodded his head, frantically agreeing to every single one of Marcus's strict terms without a single second of hesitation, wanting only to save himself from federal prison. The very next morning, the City Council officially announced that the historical landmark claim had been completely dismissed due to a sudden lack of valid legal evidence found. Victoria Sterling watched the breaking news announcement from her expensive luxury hotel room, screaming in pure, blind rage as she realized her brilliant plan had utterly failed, again. She had spent a massive portion of her remaining wealth on bribing Thomas, and now she was left with absolutely nothing but bitter resentment and growing financial desperation. Today, meanwhile, Marcus returned to the construction site with an incredibly joyful heart, watching the workers rapidly complete the final, beautiful touches on the grand Youth Community Center building. The massive historic mansion had been fully transformed into a modern educational paradise, featuring state-of-the-art computer labs, beautiful art studios, and extensive sports facilities for everyone. Marcus also hired several highly qualified professional teachers, counselors, and athletic coaches, ensuring the children would receive the absolute highest standard of guidance and care available in America. Word of the magnificent project spread quickly through the impoverished inner-city neighborhoods, bringing immense hope and excitement to countless struggling families who felt completely forgotten by society. The grand opening ceremony was officially scheduled for the following Saturday morning, and Marcus planned a massive celebration, welcoming everyone from both the city and the local neighborhood. He even sent a formal invitation to the remaining wealthy residents of the gated community, wanting to give them one final opportunity to embrace diversity and genuine human kindness. As the sun began to rise on the day of the grand opening, Marcus stood proudly on the beautiful front lawn, wearing a brilliant smile, feeling his late wife's presence. But just as the first bus loaded with excited, smiling children arrived at the front gates, an unexpected, dangerous situation occurred that threatened to ruin the beautiful day completely. A sudden loud commotion at the main entrance gate caught Marcus's immediate attention as a small group of angry, wealthy neighbors tried to block the arriving children's bus. The prejudiced residents, led by the humiliated Richard, stood defiantly in the middle of the driveway, shouting insults and holding signs protesting against the inner-city youth center today. The excited children inside the bus looked out the windows, their joyful expressions instantly turning into confusion and deep sadness as they witnessed the fierce hostility from the adults. Marcus's heart burned with intense, righteous anger, seeing how these miserable, wealthy people were willing to hurt innocent young children just to protect their outdated, elitist social status here. He walked down the long driveway with swift, powerful steps, his eyes locked onto Richard, who was currently screaming loudly at the professional bus driver to turn back around. "Step away from that vehicle immediately, Richard," Marcus commanded, his voice ringing out across the entire street like a powerful thunderclap that instantly silenced the entire angry, protesting crowd. "You have absolutely no legal right to block this road or intimidate these innocent children who have been formally invited to this property by the legal landowner today." Richard sneered arrogantly, stepping forward to face Marcus directly with a furious expression. "We will never accept these outsiders polluting our beautiful, quiet neighborhood, Marcus Vance. Never. This development is meant for high society citizens, not for poor random street kids who will undoubtedly bring crime and chaos into our pristine multi-million-dollar residential community." Before Marcus could respond, several sleek police cruisers suddenly pulled up to the curb, with their bright blue lights flashing, illuminating the entire dramatic scene on the street. The city's chief of police stepped out of the lead vehicle, walking straight toward Marcus and shaking his hand with immense respect and deep gratitude before turning to Richard. "Richard, you and your group are officially violating city assembly laws and obstructing a legal business operation," the police chief stated firmly, patting his handcuffs meaningfully right now. "Mr. Vance has full legal permits for this grand opening event, and if any of you do not disperse immediately, you will all be arrested and jailed today." The wealthy protesters gasped in total shock and absolute terror, realizing that their money could no longer buy them special immunity from the local law enforcement officers here. They quickly dropped their protest signs and hurried back to their luxury homes in deep shame, leaving Richard standing all alone in the middle of the wide driveway. Richard looked at the stern police officers, then at Marcus's fierce, unyielding expression, before finally turning around and walking away, defeated. His arrogance completely shattered into pieces now. With the path completely cleared, the bus drove smoothly through the grand gates, and the children poured out onto the beautiful lawn, cheering and laughing with pure, unbridled joy. Marcus welcomed every single child with a warm hug and a beautiful, encouraging word, making them feel like absolute royalty in this magnificent place they now called their second home. The grand opening ceremony was a massive, overwhelming success, with local news stations broadcasting the beautiful, inspiring event live to millions of amazed viewers across the entire state. Today, the children spent the entire afternoon exploring the massive computer labs, playing exciting sports games, and creating beautiful artwork in the bright, spacious studios under expert guidance and supervision. Many of the open-minded neighbors who had initially been skeptical actually came over to apologize to Marcus, bringing massive donations of books, sports equipment, and educational supplies for youth. They realized that Marcus's noble project was not ruining the neighborhood, but was actually making it far more beautiful, compassionate, and truly meaningful than it had ever been before. As the successful event began drawing to a close, Marcus stood near the grand entrance, watching the happy families board the buses to return back to their city homes. He felt an incredible sense of deep fulfillment and peace, knowing he had successfully honored his late wife's beautiful memory by creating something truly lasting for the poor youth. Just then, Marcus noticed a familiar, broken-down car parked across the street and a disheveled woman staring intently at the magnificent youth center with tears streaming down her face. It was Victoria Sterling, but she no longer possessed her usual proud, arrogant look because her clothes were completely wrinkled and her face looked incredibly exhausted, aged, and deeply stressed. After losing all her remaining wealth to the corrupt Councilman Thomas, she had been forced to move into a tiny, miserable apartment in the poorest part of the city. She had driven back to her former estate today just to see what had become of her beautiful, historic home, and was completely overwhelmed by the incredible transformation before her. Marcus looked at the broken woman for a long, quiet moment, then decided to walk across the street to face the person who had started this entire incredible journey. Victoria looked up as Marcus approached, her body trembling with intense anxiety as she wondered if he was going to humiliate her the same way she had humiliated him. Marcus looked down at Victoria with genuine compassion in his sharp, dark eyes, showing absolutely no malice or desire for revenge against the woman who had once ruined his clothes. "You look tired, Mrs. Sterling," Marcus said softly, his voice completely devoid of any harshness as he stood beside her broken-down car on the quiet suburban street corner today. Victoria broke down crying, covering her face with her trembling hands as the immense weight of her past cruel behavior and current financial misery completely overwhelmed her fragile soul. "I am so deeply sorry, Marcus," Victoria sobbed hysterically. "I was so blinded by my immense wealth, pride, and foolish prejudice that I could not see your true worth. I treated you like worthless garbage on my lawn, and now I am the one living in poverty, while you have created something truly magnificent for these beautiful children. You taught me the most painful yet valuable lesson of my entire life, and I completely deserve everything that has happened to me since I left this beautiful neighborhood." Marcus offered her a clean white handkerchief and listened patiently to her sincere apology, realizing that the arrogant woman had finally discovered true humility through her own difficult struggles. "The past is behind us, Victoria," Marcus replied gently. "What truly matters now is how you choose to move forward and change your heart for the better from today. My late wife always believed that every single human being deserves a second chance at redemption, regardless of how many terrible mistakes they have made in their past life." Marcus then offered Victoria a surprising job position as the head coordinator of the youth center's historic archives and beautiful greenhouse gardens, knowing she still loved this magnificent estate. Victoria gasped in total disbelief, her eyes widening with immense gratitude as she realized Marcus was offering her a chance to return home, not as an owner, but servant. "I accept, Marcus," Victoria whispered gratefully, wiping away her fresh tears. "I will dedicate the rest of my remaining days to serving these children and protecting this beautiful sanctuary." 1 year later, the Marcus Vance Youth Community Center had successfully served over 2,000 underprivileged children, transforming their lives through excellent education, guidance, support, and beautiful modern resources. Victoria worked tirelessly every single day alongside Marcus, teaching the young children how to plant beautiful flowers, care for nature, and maintain the gorgeous green gardens with true pride. The wealthy neighbors who had once fiercely protested against the project were now regular active volunteers, spending their weekends mentoring the children and funding massive new educational scholarships here. The entire exclusive gated community had been completely transformed from a cold, prejudiced enclave into a beautiful, vibrant symbol of diversity, unity, mutual respect, and genuine human kindness today. In 2026, the State Congress officially passed the Vance Education Act, providing massive financial grants to replicate Marcus's youth center model across dozens of poor inner-city neighborhoods nationwide. Marcus stood on the grand balcony of the historic mansion, looking down at the happy children playing safely on the beautiful green lawn under the warm autumn sun today. He looked up toward the clear blue sky, smiling peacefully as he felt his beloved late wife's spirit watching over him, proud of the incredible legacy he created here. Small acts of kindness are never truly small, because a single sandwich offered with dignity can completely change a human life and shatter decades of deep-rooted systemic hatred completely. Kindness does not require a massive, wealthy audience. Fairness does not need anyone's permission. And true, ultimate success always begins by seeing the people the world wants to forget. Now that this incredible, inspiring story of Marcus and Victoria has successfully reached its beautiful final conclusion, I want to ask you a very important personal question today, friend. What small, intentional act of genuine human kindness will you choose to perform in your local community today to help someone who is currently struggling or feeling completely forgotten? There is always someone standing near you who desperately needs to be noticed, appreciated, and treated with true dignity, respect, and love in this fast-paced, chaotic world around us. Please share your beautiful thoughts, ideas, and personal experiences in the comments section below, so we can continue inspiring thousands of people worldwide to spread love and hope daily. Do not forget to click the like button, share this video with your family, and subscribe to our channel if this powerful emotional story truly moved your human heart today. Your valuable, continuous engagement directly helps our dedicated creative team share more uncut, raw, and deeply meaningful stories that truly impact society and change human perspectives for the absolute better. At our YouTube storytelling channel, we proudly refuse to polish away the painful realities of life or water down the powerful moral messages behind our real-life dramatic stories today. We strictly tell every single story exactly like it truly is, because the absolute truth deserves nothing less than complete honesty, transparency, and deep emotional respect from all of us. Thank you so much for watching, being an active part of our growing global community, and we truly look forward to seeing you here for our next incredible story.